we're gonna see Ferrari get that title.
Misha, I am locking this theory down. You ate with that.
The tweet. You will know what tweet it is.
The infamous tweet. Yeah. Actually, no, Oscar Piastri has quite a few infamous tweets, but this one, there's one where he... Let me tell you what the other one is.
What is Carlos doing?
I don't know. He has more than Ocon.
What? Hello and welcome to Hold the Pass, a podcast that brings together sports fans from all over the world with all sorts of stories, experiences, insights, and more. I am your host, Misha.
And I'm your host, Fatima.
And today we are joined not by a guest, but by our imagination.
Yes, we are joined by our imagination and by our friendship. You can't forget that. But today's episode is kind of going to be a fun one. We're testing it out. It's going to be a what if episode. And we're going to go across two specific drivers, one who's no longer on the paddock, but one who is still on the paddock, on the grid. And we're going to, ask what if they never left a certain team. Starting with Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo. So, Carlos Sainz, as we know, joined Formula One way back in 2015 alongside of a driver called Max Verstappen. They both came up as Red Bull Junior drivers, as we know, and they drove for the team that is now known as VCARB, formerly known as Toro Rosso. So, they came up together way back when I was in my second year of university during this time, and they were out here racing in Formula One. Must be nice. To be fair, they did, neglect their childhood for the Formula One dream. So I think I won in the end. But they came up together, and then in 2016, Max Verstappen got promoted to the Red Bull team from Toro Rosso, making him teammates with Daniel Ricciardo. Misha?
So, as Fatima said, 2016, Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen become teammates, and this is kind of a pairing that has become famous in F1. Like, this was the Red Bull dream team for so long, because the two of them got along well. They were both excellent drivers. They kind of... While neither of them were world champion while they were teammates, and I mean, obviously Daniel never got to be world champion, but despite the fact that neither of them won a championship, this was still known as a very, very successful pairing for Red Bull. And I think many of us kind of thought that the two of them would continue to drive side by side for a very, very long time. And perhaps bring Red Bull back to the glory of like the Vettel days, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that did not happen because in 2019, just 3 years after Max Verstappen joined Red Bull, Daniel Ricciardo left. So, our first question of the day is, what would have happened if Daniel Ricciardo never left Red Bull?
That's a really good question, Misha, that I think a lot of people have asked for God knows how long. Like, I think people still ask that question today, even though he's been out of Formula One for 2-3 years now? 2 years, I think?
He left, or not left, I guess was kicked out. 2025, the Singapore Grand Prix.
Yes.
I think was his last race.
Yes. That was tough.
That really was.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll get into it later, so we won't talk about it too much, but that really is a question. And I just want to go back to what you were saying about like them kind of being a dream team. I mean, they really were, because obviously like Vettel hit a point at Red Bull where it was just kind of like, he got his championships with Red Bull and like they kind of were a bit stagnant. And he wanted to go for the red dream, and I think with Danny, Rick, and Max, they were kind of like a young team, a young duo that you were like, this could be something really interesting. And I'm sure you'll talk about this as well. But it would have been really exciting to see what those two could have done together. But again, like, we've talked about this with George and Kimmy. You could be the senior driver of the team, but it doesn't mean you're going to be the one that's necessarily going to take the team to where it needs to be. Who knows right now, though, with the Formula One season, because George could come back after summer break and completely dominate. But hey.
Exactly, exactly. So 2019 is an interesting year because we have two kind of moves that I think that both of us are gonna dig into a little bit. First, of course, is Daniel leaving Red Bull to go to Renault. And the driver whose seat he took, well, not took, but like the driver whose seat he got was Carlos Sainz, who that year moved to McLaren.
We talked about this off camera, but we have to talk about it on camera. I never knew until preparing for this video how intertwined their like careers, or like, what do you mean? Like, it's like, okay, you're from Red Bull, I'm from Red Bull. You went to Renault, I'm going to Renault. You went to McLaren, I'm going to McLaren. Like, what is going on here?
No, literally, like, it didn't dawn on me until like I was putting together this timeline. Like, Denny Rick just basically kind of followed Carlos, like,
so
every
funny.
step of the way.
Daniel, want to come back for Williams?
Oh my god. No, first he has to stop by at Ferrari, like.
Oh yeah. I forgot about yeah.
Don't forget about that. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into Danny Rick and Ferrari.
Oh, I'm excited.
So, our first question is, I guess, what would have happened if Daniel didn't end up going to Renault? Because that move is ultimately what opened the door for Pierre Gasly to go to Red Bull from Toro Rosso, who he had been with for the past couple of years, right? That's like one of the first sort of instances of that really quick Red Bull driver turnaround that a lot of people talk about. Is it starts in 2019 with Pierre Gasly, right?
Yeah, it's like the beginning of the end for that second seat.
Exactly. And Daniel had that seat for like 3 years. Yeah. And I think Sergio had it for about that time too, right?
I think Sergio was, if not, I think he might have had it for slightly longer. I could be wrong.
Maybe 4. But like, kind of Daniel and Sergio are sort of the two bookends to this like era of very rapid driver overturn that happened in Red Bull. So let's say Danny decides he doesn't want to leave Red Bull. Let's say he decides that he stays. The next question becomes then, what happens to that Renault seat that Carlos has left open?
Do you think they would have gone for like a French driver? They would have taken the risk for a rookie?
So I did a bit of research, and apparently at the time they were looking at, I mean, honestly, they wanted to extend Carlos, which I think is valid. He's a good driver. But also they were looking at Ocon.
I see that because, like, you know, we know what happened with Renault, and then, like, you know, Alpine. Like, honestly, Renault leaving Formula One was I feel like that was just a weird, you know, it feels like a fever dream, even though they haven't been in F1 for, I don't even know how many, like 5-6 years now, like something Renault, like the team name. Yeah, I feel like they would have hired a younger driver, and I wonder what that then would have done for Ocon had he come in signed under Renault specifically.
Yeah, because I think at the time he was with Force India.
Yeah, and I remember
with Perez actually.
Yeah, and then they kicked him out.
And then they kicked him out. Yeah,
and he had his backpack, and they were interviewing him, and I was like, "Why are you doing this to this kid?"
But like, oh my god, we're gonna get into so much. There's so many, like, this is so messy. This sport is so incestuous and like the funniest way ever.
Truly.
So I guess, yeah, the kind of the immediate aftermath of Danny Rick not going to Renault would be maybe like an Ocon coming in instead.
Do you know who their reserve driver was, or their third driver was? Renault's at the time?
That's okay if you don't. Really good question. I don't know off the top of my head. Do you want me to look it up?
I think it's fine. Okay. But like, whoever, it could have been them.
It potentially. Could have been them. Also. Exactly.
Insert photo of whoever that third driver was.
The other thing that's interesting to think about is because Daniel leaving Red Bull left the seat open for Pierre to come in, the person that came in to replace Pierre was, I believe, Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh my gosh, why did I forget about him?
It was him
Yeah,
and Alex Albon to begin that season.
you're so right. I don't know why I always forget about him and I just jump to Alex Albon.
It's because
Sorry,
we
dude.
usually associate like Alex Albon
Yeah.
with that like Red Bull Toro
Yeah.
Rosso like seat flip, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because kind of Daniel Kvyat was kind of the constant in that team, and then
Mm-hmm.
Pierre and Alex were the ones that flipped.
You're so right. You're so right.
Yeah. So I guess in that situation, I would say like Toro Rosso would probably just stay with Pierre
Yeah.
Gasly and Alex Albon for the full season, giving them time to develop.
Yeah. Because that's where it ultimately lies is they weren't able to develop.
Exactly, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of why that like mid-season switch ended up happening with Gasly
Mm-hmm.
going back to Toro Rosso and Alex getting the promotion. So I think that had Daniel stayed in Red Bull,
Mm-hmm.
that like situation would not have happened at all. The teams would stay as they are for the entire
Yeah.
year.
Because I think Red Bull they were upset when he left. Like, they
Yeah,
wanted Danny Rick to stay. But, like, I can't even blame him because, like, he saw what was happening. Like, he saw the vision
yeah,
because what was happening to him is low-key what he did to Vettel, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so he had the foresight to be like, maybe I should dip, but it's just like, it just didn't pan out the way that obviously he would have hoped, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I think
Mm-hmm.
ultimately what would have happened is he would have to like come to terms with the fact that he is the second driver and that
Mm-hmm.
is Max's team because like by 2018 Max was outperforming him easy peasy.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, like, when you, like, Danny, big name, like, he's a great driver. He was a great driver. Like, he was really, like, up with the best of them, with the Hamiltons and the Vettels. Like, he was getting podiums. It was just,
Yeah,
unfortunately, there's just generational drivers, and Max is one of
exactly.
them.
Exactly. It's kind of like what's happening to George. Like
Yeah.
George could potentially win a championship. He is a
Yeah.
championship caliber driver. Like that is not up for debate. It's just
Yeah.
his teammate happens to be the generational talent.
That's it. Like,
Like
that's it. And like, it sucks, but
yeah,
that's it.
exactly.
That's it. So we were talking about, mind you, Misha definitely did more research for this than I did because as they were speaking, I said, wait. You know, oh my God, oh my gosh. I just wrote down quite, but
Like I have an entire like chart of like what happened and what if and like and
yeah,
then
I wrote bullet points and I was like, I'm hoping for the best because, you know, it is what it is. But if we go back to, I think this for Sainz, like we spoke about, you know, him leaving, Toro Rosso for Renault in 2018. And it's interesting because I feel like as much as he followed, him and as much as Daniel Ricciardo followed Sainz's footsteps, Sainz followed, Fernando Alonso's because Alonso won his championships with Renault
yeah.
and they're both Spanish. They're both from Spain. So Alonso, way back in the day, won his championships with Renault. Carlos Sainz leaves Red Bull, Toro Rosso, the Red Bull camp for Renault.
Yep.
And then Alonso retires, quote unquote, because the guy came back like real freaking quick, buddy. To be fair,
Come
he
on.
did do a lot, but he lost some stuff when he retired, by the way.
That's true.
Like,
That's
it
true.
was out
That's
here. He was
true.
still racing. He just retired from Formula One. So then Alonso, who's in McLaren, leaves to retire and Carlos Sainz takes his seat. And then we obviously know that Alonso also raced with Ferrari. And guess who else raced with Ferrari? Oh, Carlos Sainz. I think it's so funny. Like, what's going on here, guys? What's going on here? I mean, there is
No,
also
literally.
only like 10 teams on the grid, 11
Yeah.
now. So, you know, but, once Carlos Sainz came up, he actually came up with McLaren with, Lando Norris
Yes.
because originally it was, if I'm correct, Alonso and Stoffel Van Dorn who were
Yes.
teammates for a bit, and then obviously with Alonso retiring, Lando Norris was a McLaren boy. Like, yeah, so he came up with McLaren. They like their driver program. He came up through the McLaren junior driver program. So obviously they were once he entered Formula One, Alonso was no longer there. And Carlos Sainz has proved himself with Renault and Toro Rosso as well. So him joining McLaren, I kind of feel like it's a bit similar to like the Danny Rick and Max Verstappen situation, where it's like they could have really helped build the team up to be what it is, because McLaren was going through a really rough patch after they won their championship with Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
So it was now the time for a build up with the team. Like, this is when the McLaren rebuilding phase started. It was back in 2019.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting one because I think they had a really good relationship. McLaren, I mean, we know they did because they showed it and shoved it in our faces.
Oh yeah. Those are besties.
Like, for real. I think they had a really good relationship. And I think because at that point, Carlos Sainz was the more experienced driver. Lando Norris was a rookie. So with Carlos Sainz joining McLaren, obviously they made the right choice because he did bring them their first podium since 2014 at the Brazilian Grand Prix. So like, clearly they were doing something right. And then in 2020, so we're jumping to 2020. This is the COVID season, the very interesting season. Both drivers received podiums. So we had Lando Norris got his first podium in Austria, as we all know. And then Carlos got a podium with Italy. So at this point in 2019, McLaren had a partnership with Renault for the engine. And at this point, their engine was doing pretty well. McLaren was starting to gel with the engine. Again, like I said, they were kind of like the best of the rest at this point. So they went from being like a back marker to slowly building their way up to the best of the rest. And then, as I was saying, in 2020, they started to beat their upper midfield, rivals, and they actually finished P3 in the standings. So, it was going pretty well for the McLaren duo. And I think like how Red Bull would have loved to keep Danny Rick, I think McLaren truly would have loved to keep Carlos Sainz. But obviously, if you get a call from Ferrari, even if Ferrari is the worst team ever, you're probably going to take it. And that's what happened with Carlos Sainz. So after that 2020 season, Carlos Sainz said, actually, I'm going for the Scarlet Ferrari. Y'all can stay safe out there. And I guess my question is, and this is a question that I think a lot of people are asking this day. It's not, what if Carlos Sainz stayed at McLaren? Do you think he regrets leaving McLaren?
Ooh, I think maybe in those first couple of years, no.
Yeah.
But then the question is, would they have kept him up to 2024, 2025?
That's
right.
The only reason why, have you seen that goodbye video they made for Sainz when he was leaving McLaren to go to Ferrari, and they're like, take care of him? I said, this is insane.
Yeah.
This is insane. So there is a potential that they may not, they may have kept him, but there's also the potential that they may not have kept him. What I find really interesting about Sainz, and we'll go over this later on, is the fact that he's raced with like all the teams essentially. Like he's raced with Toro Rosso. He's raced with Renault. He's raced with McLaren. He's raced with Ferrari, and he's raced with Williams. Like he's actually raced for the big three if you deep it, like the Formula One big three. Like I know Williams is Williams, but like Williams historically has been one of the teams in Formula One. So like he has raced for some pretty good teams. It's just he's raced for them in periods where they weren't succeeding, which is the tough part.
Yeah, it sucks because like all of these teams have really, really strong histories in the sport. And what happens a lot of the time is after he leaves, they kind of return to their greatness.
Is he the guy?
Like he might be the guy, because we saw that happen with Red Bull after he left Toro Rosso. Like a few years later, Max started winning.
So you're saying Ferrari's going to win the championship?
I'm just saying, the patterns are patterning.
You might have just clocked something, Misha.
Like, it's true though. Like,
except for Renault, obviously, but
except for Renault,
but like,
Renault's not in the sport anymore.
Yeah. They're not even with Alpine anymore. Oh my gosh, they're just out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Alpine's now with Alpine is now with a Mercedes engine.
Yeah.
But like even with McLaren, like he leaves a few years later, they're winning championships. So it might not happen this year, but maybe in like a year or two, we're gonna see Ferrari get that title.
Misha, I am locking this theory down. You ate with that. You actually ate with that. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Did you just figure something out? Conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory. Tin hats are on. We're gonna circle back to this moment in like a couple of years and see if it helps.
That is insane. But yeah, so I think, so then he leaves in 2021, and then obviously Daniel Ricciardo joins the team. Yeah. And what happens then, Misha?
Well, Daniel Ricciardo, he only stayed with Renault for a couple of years. So 2019 and 2020, like you said. And his second time around in Renault was actually a lot better than his first time.
Yeah. Sorry, I know you're going to get into it, but like him leaving Renault was actually like the blowing force for them.
It really was. Yeah. Like, honestly, maybe if Daniel stayed,
Renault could still be here.
Yeah.
No, it's true, because I remember like that was a really tough blow for Renault once Danny Ric left.
Yeah, because he, like, when I was looking at the numbers, like, the jump that he made from 2019 to 2020 is kind of amazing. Like, he really, really did well. But, of course, it didn't work out. Renault wanted to keep him.
Yeah, I remember.
Like, they were really, really fighting for it, but he didn't want to. I think what ended up happening with him from just, like, a mentality point of view is, like, he really wanted to be the guy.
Yep.
And then Max showed up and he wasn't the guy. And he goes to Renault and he's going to be the guy, but like clearly the team is still putting everything together. Like they're not at their peak form. So
who was his teammate at Renault? Do you remember?
Nico Hülkenberg, actually.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You're so right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Nico. And like he did really, really well. What's interesting though is he wasn't actually like, I know we're kind of comparing a Red Bull, which at the time was one of the most powerful cars, to a Renault car, but he wasn't really outperforming the second Red Bull seat. Like Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon were still pulling better numbers than him, but that doesn't really mean anything, right? Like, they're very, very different machines.
Yeah.
And so, like,
apples to oranges kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, 2021 comes along and he goes to McLaren. And
multi-year contract.
We'll see how that plays out. This is a really, really interesting year in terms of like Red Bull, because that's the year that also Perez came in. That's also the year that Yuki Tsunoda came in to Toro Rosso, and Daniel Kvyat leaves the sport permanently. He no longer has to race against Mr. Stelia Girl, Max Verstappen.
We don't talk about that. That we just don't talk about. Let's move.
No. Yeah. We do not talk about it. And then, Daniel goes and races alongside Lando. And I think it's really, really interesting because you could tell that Daniel so badly wanted that team to work.
Yeah.
He really, really wanted that to work. And I don't remember what the stats were, but I think that, like, Lando, despite the fact that McLaren was still struggling, was kind of racing circles around him, wasn't he?
Daniel did win with McLaren, though.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Like,
That's
he was
true.
their first
You're
win
so
for...
Yes.
I can't remember since how long.
Yeah. You're right. You're so right.
He won before Lando did.
Yes. But it still wasn't working out for some reason. And so I think what's interesting though is I think had Daniel stayed in Red Bull back in 2019, I still don't know if by this point in time he would be in Red Bull, because
something happened. Again, regulations changed too, right?
That's true. Around that, I think it was 2022.
Was it?
That the regulations would change.
Yeah, you're so right. It was 2022.
I think with how quickly like Red Bull was just willing to swap drivers in and out, I think they really, really wanted to see their junior drivers, so like Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, develop, and I think that they would have put either Alex or Pierre in that seat by this point in time.
I think you're right. I think what really got Red Bull is not the fact that he left, because he would have probably got rid of him, but it's the fact that he left on his terms, not their terms.
Exactly. Exactly. Because he's also, I think, the last driver to have done so.
Oh, with Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're
But I
right.
mean, like, that's the case for most drivers. Like, most of them don't leave of their own accord.
Yeah, it's rare that it happens, unless you're like a top
Lewis Hamilton
caliber.
going to
Yeah.
Ferrari.
But yeah, like, unless you're like, that's what I'm saying, unless you're like a
Yeah.
Senna or like
Yeah.
a Prost, like a top or a Vettel, like you're a champion,
Yeah.
you know? Um, or you're like a midfield driver going to like another midfield team, you know?
Exactly.
But it is rare that it happens. And I do think it's interesting because obviously, like, I mean, and I can't blame him. You don't want to be the second driver, especially for a team that
Yeah.
you helped build, you know? Like,
Yeah.
who wants to be the number two to a guy who's younger than you at that? But, and I think that's what Red Bull was, that's what they were aiming for. They saw the vision with Max. They did.
Yeah.
And that's what they were aiming for. They were like, okay, this Daniel Ricciardo thing could work and stick if he's going to be that second driver.
So that brings me to the question of 2021, and if Danny Rick isn't with Red Bull, where would he go in that time? Is that a time that he goes to McLaren? Does he go to Renault? Like, what happens? And that I don't know.
That, yeah, I mean, that could be a year where he takes a sabbatical.
Yeah.
But I think a good, interesting question is 2021. If Daniel Ricciardo stays with Red Bull and Max is winning the championship is against Lewis Hamilton for the championship, is Daniel willing to do what Perez did for Max? Or is he taking points off of his teammate so he could win the championship? Because at this point, he would have been at Red Bull for what? How long?
Yeah. Like,
you know?
It would be like 5-6 years.
5-6 years, and this is your first championship battle, like properly, where you're like, holy crap, I could win this thing. And you're like, F this guy, he only got here. I've been here. I deserve this.
Literally.
You know?
Literally. But at the same time, like, Max is so strong.
Yeah, Max
and
is ruthless at this 2021.
Horner was so far in Max's corner at that point that I don't think that something like, for example, the papaya rules would be happening at Red Bull, where like they're flip-flopping on a driver until there's no choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. I don't know, Mish. That's an interesting one for real.
Yeah, but at the same time, we also have Carlos over at
Carlos leaves McLaren in 2020 for the 2021 season.
Right. Yeah. So now which is how Danny gets into McLaren is through that, and then Carlos goes to Ferrari.
Yeah, and so the Carlos to Ferrari thing is an interesting one because at this point, he's been in Formula One for a minute now. He was able to have his developing seasons at Toro Rosso, and he was unfortunately never going to get that Red Bull seat because they had already locked in their contracts with Max and Daniel Ricciardo. And actually, there was some drama around that back in 2017 when Carlos kind of made like. He had an interview where he kind of spoke about like, you know, not doing a fourth year at Toro Rosso because, I mean, to be fair, he's a great driver, and to just have him be your, you know, stay on your junior team, which also kind of goes to show like, would Red Bull have just kept Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon with Toro Rosso because like they were willing to keep Carlos Sainz there for 4 years. But yeah, so there was some strong opinions by Horner and Marco, who were really upset with Carlos Sainz, saying that he might not potentially do a fourth year at Toro Rosso. And he actually said, Carlos Sainz, that he's an ambitious driver and human. And he said, it's very clear that my first goal in life is to become a Red Bull driver and start fighting podiums with them. He says,
powerful words.
I know, right? Mind you, this was like, obviously he's going to say that like to a news outlet. Like this is 2017. He was hella young at that point too. Like, you know, he did say on that I have ambitions, and my ambition is to be a Red Bull driver one day, hopefully sooner rather than later, which I think is funny because we do have that conversation come into play when he's out of Ferrari seat. They're like, is he going to go to Red Bull? You know, but, clearly there was a want to be on that Red Bull senior team. And I would have loved to see a Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz partnership, because I actually think it would be a ruthless one between the two.
I agree. I don't think they would play nice.
No, I don't think they would play nice. And I don't think Max would have had an easier chance to win those back-to-back championships. I think there could be one where he didn't win, actually. Potentially. Cause not just by virtue of Sainz being a better driver, I think it would have just been by like luck. You know what I mean? By like, he just maybe had more issues with the car than Sainz did. And like, because their points were so close, like this and that happened, you know? But so Sainz goes to Ferrari in 2021. And this was a pretty solid one because you had Charles Leclerc there and then you had Carlos Sainz there. Charles was teammates with Sebastian Vettel, who had left Red Bull to go to Ferrari because apparently that's what people do.
That's what people do.
And then obviously Sebastian Vettel at this point in his career, he's like, I won my championships. I'm not at the peak of my, you know, skills as I was. He's winding down. I think he goes to Aston Martin at this point. No? Am I going crazy? Goes to Aston Martin at this point. So they need another driver. And that is Carlos Sainz Jr. And I think this was, again, hopeful young team, two drivers who were great and were able to bring points to Ferrari. I think Ferrari itself as a team just wasn't where they needed to be and for those drivers. But during his time with Ferrari, that's where he got his wins. So he has 4 wins in total in Formula One, and he got all 4 of those wins with Ferrari. So he had a good run at Ferrari, but of course, if a 7-time world champion by the name of Lewis Hamilton calls you, you're not going to say no. And Ferrari was not going to get rid of Charles Leclerc, as we know, because like Lando Norris is to McLaren, Charles Leclerc is to Ferrari. Like they were homegrown boys, right? You're not going to get rid of someone that you invested time and money into.
No. We're
Time
gonna do
and money
everything we
into.
can.
Exactly.
Like it's the same thing with Max and Red Bull.
Yeah.
There are certain drivers and certain teams where that team will bend over backwards to keep
It's honestly the same if you deep it with Lewis and Mercedes, because of course Mercedes McLaren and then Mercedes. It's like he was there for how many? They were only up until he started hitting his later ages where we heard the conversations of obviously Toto Wolff like wanting to, and then Lewis, but still again, Lewis, like Danny Rick, took the power in his own hands and left the team before they could leave him. And ultimately, I think that was a good call as we're seeing this season. I mean, obviously Mercedes is leading the championship, but we're seeing why he left at the same time though, because what could be a Kimi Antonelli / Max Verstappen situation with, should Hamilton have stayed with Mercedes. But that's that's another what if episode, I think, personally.
I think so. That's a whole other...
Yeah. But so Carlos Sainz no longer has a seat with Ferrari. He's with Ferrari from 2021 to 2024. A good, solid time. No longer has a seat with Ferrari. And people are like, okay, where is he going to go next? Because he has won multiple races with a top team. He knows how to drive, and we've seen him be on podiums, and we've seen him grow within a team. So there were so many rumors. Is Carlos Sainz going to go back to Red Bull? That was potentially a question, but apparently rumor has it that was blocked by Jos Verstappen himself. Allegedly there's bad blood between the dads. Who knows? Because for our audience who doesn't watch Formula One, Jos Verstappen was a former Formula One driver. His son is Max Verstappen. And then Carlos Sainz Sr. is a rally world champion, and his son is Carlos Sainz Jr. Just a brief history for our audience who doesn't know Formula One.
And
Anything to add to that?
apparently these families are feuding a la Montagues and Capulets.
So, so
Give me
that
the forbidden pairing.
truly that gets blocked. That's what the rumors were saying, at least during that time. And then there was questions on Carlos, and this is where I think and we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But there was thoughts on Carlos Sainz going to Audi, which was formerly Stake, because we knew Audi was coming into Formula One, and Carlos Sainz's family has connections with Audi, and like objectively, it made the most sense,
Yeah.
And I have to say, I think this is and this could be controversial. I think this is what makes or breaks a driver who is a champion.
Okay.
Because now we know Audi's they're not doing the best, right? But Hulkenberg finally got a podium. Was that when they were still Stake or Audi?
That was when they were still Stake.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
But
that was last year.
We can see that we could see that they are developing. And I just saw this morning that they are bringing in some crazy upgrades. Like, they are not here to play. And the reason why I say this is what makes or breaks a championship or a championship worthy driver is you kind of have to see the vision.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz was I don't know how Williams came into play, but I'm saying Carlos Sainz wants to be the man, right? He wants to be that one who to bring in a championship for a team. Could that have been Williams? Sure. Who knows? And obviously they have the history there. And while they're not doing the best, he knows the history of Williams. Whereas Audi was kind of I don't know what's going to happen with this guy. Right. But I say this to say, back when Mercedes came into Formula One in 2013, Schumacher was with them. And obviously he was only there for that 1 year. Lewis Hamilton could have taken the risk and said, no, I'm just going to stay with McLaren and ride this through. But he was like, actually, Mercedes is not doing too hot. However, I kind of see the vision of what they're giving me. So I'm going to move myself to Mercedes, away from a team that I know has won titles. And look what happened.
Yeah. No, literally. And that's actually such an interesting point, because when we talk about Audi, yes, they are technically rebranded Stake, but they have their own power unit. It's basically a brand new team that just happened to have bought an older team's headquarters, essentially.
Yeah, essentially.
But they are also starting from page zero, similarly to Cadillac, and Cadillac is doing much, much worse. Audi got a top 6 finish on race 1.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
That was Gabby, I think. Gabby got it too, which is incredible. And I think when you say, you have to see the vision, we kind of see it with drivers like Fernando Alonso too, sticking with Aston Martin and him being no, I have faith in Adrian Newey. The car's crap now, but it's gonna be good. So,
no, you do have to see the vision.
You kind of have to see the vision. And I mean, we'll see if Fernando sees the right vision.
I don't know if the vision will last while he's he pushing 50.
He might need some prescription glasses, but we'll see.
But truly, I think you have to see the vision and just kind of see it through. And that's low-key kind of the same we could say for Danny Rick as well.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes patience really is a virtue. You just kind of need to stick it out. But on that topic, I do want to first go back and say that I was wrong when I said that Danny Rick was the last driver that left Red Bull on his own terms, or at least the Red Bull family.
Okay.
Pierre Gasly also left on his own terms. I completely forgot about that. He could have stayed at, I guess at that time, they were Alpha Tauri, I think, when he left.
I'm so tired.
We've
already gone through this in our last episode.
You can kind of track, you don't even need to say the year that you're talking about. You just need to say what that team is called.
Yep.
It's basically a calendar. Anyway, so going back to the AlphaTauri days, the second round of shuffling, What do you think would have happened if Carlos, for some reason, was like, no, thank you, Ferrari. I'm going to stay at McLaren?
If Carlos Sainz said no to Ferrari and stayed with McLaren, that's an interesting one because then you're like, okay, then what would have happened with Danny Rick? Like, would he have just retired? And then you would have been like, all right, here comes Oscar Piastri. You know, what's going on with that? Because obviously that signing was a big deal because of, please, Kevin, I beg you to insert Oscar Piastri's tweet.
Oh my god, the tweet. You will know what tweet it is.
The infamous tweet. Yeah. Actually, no, Oscar Piastri has quite a few infamous tweets, but this one, there's one where he... let me tell you what the other one is, though. There's one where he posted a selfie of him on a plane, like, he's like, and he, like, made a quote, and then it happened to be on 9/11, and he deleted it.
Wait, I remember this. This was like a couple of years ago.
This was like at least 2 or 3 years ago. It was so funny. So that's why I say there's more than one infamous, but there is one infamous tweet specifically Oscar Piastri joining McLaren. So that's another thing because obviously McLaren wanted Piastri. And they definitely put in money for him because of the whole Alpine fiasco. So then we have to ask if Carlos Sainz stayed at McLaren, how long would he have stayed at McLaren for? Because he seems to be a driver who's like, if you're not going to allow me to have a win, I'm out of here. And that's why he stayed with Ferrari because he was able to have wins, whereas McLaren was still in the back at that time. Like they were still the best of the rest at that time. They were doing really bad actually at that time.
Yeah.
And again,
kind of like Williams now.
Yeah, kind of like Williams now. And Lando Norris, he saw the vision. He was also a McLaren boy through and through, but he also saw the vision. He could have left McLaren, let's be honest. Once he got a seat in F1, he could have left McLaren, but I think we have to ask that. And just one final thing I want to say about Carlos Sainz that I thought is very interesting was actually, his stats. Cause we know he joined Formula One in 2015. So throughout, he's entered 240 GPs. Grand Prix could have been 241, but you know, he had that appendix thing. And then Ollie Behrman was like, my condolences. And I said, condolences is crazy, Ollie.
Hi everyone, it's Ollie here. Say my condolences to Carlos.
Wow.
Like he's still alive.
These youngins just be putting everything and anything on social media.
He said it in a video.
My condolences for your appendix. But
I'm gonna race for you, thanks.
Sorry for your loss.
Literally. Like, what do you mean my condolences? But yeah, so he's entered 240 Grand Prix. In that, he has 4 wins. He has 29 podiums, 6 poles. And I don't know why this blew my mind. Carlos Sainz has 45 DNFs altogether. And the reason why it blew my mind was because I was like, I gotta look at who else has all these DNFs. Obviously, Alonso has the majority because he's old. Sorry. Yeah. And he's also been in Formula One for longer than my little sister has been alive.
Okay, but then you also have to look at Lewis because he's
I know, but let me tell you, but no, wait, because Fernando Alonso has 92 DNFs, whereas Lewis has 32 or 36. Touch black.
Let's go.
You know, Carlos Sainz has more DNFs than Lance Stroll.
No.
Yeah.
He does not.
He does.
You're lying to me.
I'm not. I'm being so serious because I had to look at it like 3 times.
That's insane.
He has the 4th most DNFs. So Hulk has 50. And then, Sergio Perez only has him beat by 1 number. So Sergio Perez has 46. And then obviously Alonso and then Sainz on the grid, right now. And then obviously I didn't count the rookies because or like the people who've been in Formula One for like 2 years because you only got here. But yeah, he has more DNFs than freaking Lance Stroll. Max only has 36, which was actually quite shocking to me because, you know, Max was
honestly,
in his early years.
Yeah, Max likes to get into the action.
Yeah. But isn't that crazy? 45 DNFs?
Wow.
Charles only has like 25.
Of course.
Yeah, Charles only has like 25. Russell only has like 20 something. Like Albon also Albon only has like 20 something, I think. Or even less.
Crazy.
Like, I'm like, buddy, Carlos, what's going on?
What the hell? What is Carlos doing?
I don't know. He has more than Ocon.
What? Yeah. No shame on you, Esty Bestie. We love you here, but like, Carlos has been in some top tier teams. Like, you shouldn't be DNFing.
That's why I had to double and triple check, because I was like, what were you doing? Maybe one of our audience members can tell us, because we're at a loss for words.
Please let us know. I need somebody to do like a stats sheet of like, are these engine failures? Are they crashes? Are they like him getting beached? Like,
because like seriously, what 45
what happened? What is the main cause of these DNFs?
Genuinely, but yeah, I think had Carlos Sainz not left McLaren, I think. Okay, let's say in a perfect world, Carlos Sainz doesn't leave McLaren and McLaren doesn't want to get rid of him either. And it's between him and Lando for the championship fight in 2025. Who wins?
Ooh. Honestly, you know who wins that?
Zach Brown.
Max.
Oh.
Max wins that because they're taking points off of each other.
You did not. Did you not hear that?
Yeah, Zach Brown.
Now you ignored me. You said, Fatima, shut up. You said that.
No, Max wins that because they're taking points off of each other. It's too close.
I mean, we saw the drivers take points off of each other last season with papaya rules. I think Lando still wins it because of McLaren driver.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Actually, that is a very, very good point. They are going to favor Lando over basically anybody.
Yeah. And I can't blame them.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Lando probably wins that.
Then do you think Oscar Piastri goes to Alpine?
Unfortunately.
Dang, he really got lucky. Like, it was a stroke. My gosh. I mean, now, like, yeah.
Like, seriously, imagine if... Really, this all started with Ferrari calling Carlos.
No, genuinely.
But wait.
No,
if this all started with Ferrari calling... Well...
This all started with Alonso's fake retirement.
Yeah, it's all Alonso's fault.
At the end of the day, it's always your fault, Alonso.
Damn it, Alonso.
Sorry, we need to wrap up. Do you have anything to add to Danny Rick's story?
No.
Oh, you want to talk about when he left? Or was,
I mean, all I was going to say is, like, by the time we get to, like, 2022, like, he's kind of going to be on the same path that he ended up on anyway, because he's just not going to... I don't think that Red Bull would have kept him that long.
And
at least not in Red Bull. Like, at most, like, he would V-carb. Get the demotion to V-carb. Exactly.
Which is exactly what happened.
Exactly. And so, like, the same kind of cascade of events would likely lead to him again being replaced mid-season in maybe even earlier than 2020.
Yeah. I think his story is quite sad. I think it's one of those stories where it's like, just leave while you're ahead kind of thing, which is objectively, like, obviously when him and McLaren parted ways, he left, and then, he went back to being like the Red Bull ambassador, and like, they're like, is he going to be the second driver? Is he coming back to Red Bull? And then obviously Perez was just doing what Red Bull needed them to do. So like, they weren't going to get rid of him. But I think his story is a story that a lot of drivers should follow, in the sense of like, just leave while you're ahead. And like, at this point, we could say that for some of the drivers on the grid, but I won't name names yet.
That's true. It is. It's a cautionary tale. Right? Yeah. It's a cautionary tale of like, what happens when you are constantly chasing this one goal and not kind of letting things play out.
Yes.
But just like constantly like, okay, this isn't working. I have to change immediately. I have to change immediately.
That's exactly what it is, Misha. That is exactly what it is. But I think this was such a cool episode. I don't know. I enjoyed this. Like,
this was fun.
Yeah.
This was fun. We got to delve a bit into some history. We got to delve a bit into some hypotheticals, chat a bit about some drivers we love, some drivers we miss.
I'm down for another What If episode, and for our audience, if there's, or what about, if there's any driver that you guys think we should discuss for another, like, what if blank never left blank? Please let us know. Yeah. It could be a driver of any generation, by the way. It doesn't have to just be the current grid. We chose this one because I was like, oh, we can remember stuff about this one off the top of our heads right now. But no, that was such a really fun episode, and we hope that you guys enjoyed it too. This has been the Hold the Pass podcast. I've been your host, Fatima.
And I've been your host, Misha.
And if you like this episode, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at HoldThePastPod and anywhere else you listen to your podcasts from. And you can also reach out to us at HoldThePastPodcast@gmail.com should you have any questions or comments about any of the episodes that we have recorded thus far. Thank you all so much for sitting here and watching this. And if you're listening on audio, thank you so much for listening. And we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.